Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, Senior Fellow at the Media Research Center. The topic for this little video commentary is Rest in Peace, Racism. Now, I know already there's a bunch of folks with their hair on fire. I'm sure the comments are already flooding. What are you talking about, rest in peace, racism? Well, first of all, just hear me out. See, racism, having been born and raised down south in Georgia in 1961, used to mean something. As a matter of fact, it was all about prejudice or discrimination or a adverse view of another race of people, believing that you were superior above them. See, what the word racism has come to believe is anyone that disagrees with the ideological agenda of the progressive socialist left, well, then you're a racist. It is a means by which they try to shut down any type of political debate, discussion, or even opposing thought. And think about it. Even during the years of Barack Obama, anytime there was an issue, the Fast and Furious scandal, or the, IRS scandal where they targeted conservatives, or even if you talked about the fact that Americans were abandoned to die in a combat zone under terrorist attack by Islamic extremists, jihadists, in a place called Benghazi, Libya for 13 hours. If you brought that up, you were a racist. See, any criticism of Barack Obama and his policies, his ideological agenda, because he was black, immediately meant that you were a racist. Well, take for instance, just last week, when President Donald Trump said that we need to have that citizenship question on the United States Census. Now, we previously had a citizenship question in the United States Census. Somehow during the last census under the Obama administration, it went away. But wouldn't you want to know how many citizens you have in these United States of America? After all, we do have a certain level of sovereignty as a constitutional republic. I mean, we do have a rule of law. And I thought that that's what we based our representation on, is citizens who are eligible to vote. But because Donald Trump believed that that citizenship question should be returned to the United States Census, well, he was called a racist by Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Now, I don't understand why someone wanting to put back into the census something that had already been there, a question on citizenship, all of a sudden becomes an issue of racism. But anyhow, what was very interesting last week was just 48 hours later, in responding to some of the tweets that were out there from, I think they call themselves the Squad, those four female Democratic Congresswomen, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Pressley. Nancy Pelosi took offense. She took umbrage with the fact that they were attacking other Democrat members of her caucus. And she called them out on it. And guess what happened? She was labeled a racist for speaking out against women of color. All Nancy Pelosi was doing was saying that you don't have the right. I do not want you criticizing openly, publicly, on this social media, whatever she called it, members of our caucus. And see, again, racism has come to mean so little that, Ocasio-Cortez and Omar and Tlaib and Presley, if you don't agree with them, if you confront them in any way because of their ideas, Green New Deal or 16-year-olds voting, or think about some of the things that Ms. Omar has said. 9/11 was some people doing something. If you say anything against that, then you're a racist, even if you're the Speaker of the House and the Democrat head of their caucus. Think about how Kamala Harris all of a sudden was able to brand, or seemingly brand, Senator and former Vice President Joe Biden as a racist. Joe Biden has been around for, I think almost 4 decades in politics. He was Barack Obama's vice president, but never did we hear anything about him holding up busing or racism or working with, how funny is this, Democrat segregationists. But now all of a sudden, because he's a threat, he's standing up there on a presidential debate stage, just the same as they did to Bill Clinton back in 2008, when his wife was running against Barack Obama, they threw out the race card on crazy old Joe Biden. Yeah, old Joe Biden, that pillar, that anchor, that long-standing Democrat face of politics is now a racist. But not even that. I mean, even Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg has been called a racist by the Congressional Black Caucus because of some police incidents in the city where he was the mayor, South Bend, Indiana. But then Mayor Buttigieg then in turn called his police racist. It's just being thrown all over the place. And oh, by the way, Kamala Harris, who tried to brand Joe Biden as a racist, well, she came back and said, hey, Presley, Omar, Tlaib, Ocasio-Cortez, Nancy Pelosi is not a racist. I stand by her and I stand up for her. But I don't think anyone would come back and apologize to Donald Trump for calling him a racist just because he wanted a citizenship question on the census. And how interesting, at the end of last week, it was President Donald Trump that said Nancy Pelosi is not a racist in response to the accusation levied against her by those 4 Democratic congresswomen. That comes at the end of a week that started with Nancy Pelosi calling him a racist. But what I do find very hypocritical, and there are many things hypocritical about the progressive socialist left, is that when they attack Black conservatives, when they draw cartoonish pictures of me with really big lips and a gold tooth, or how about remembering those very despicable cartoons that were drawn of a very astute Black female conservative by the name of Condoleezza Rice, former Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. Who can ever forget Jeff Danziger's Washington Post cartoon depicting her as a big-lipped Southern mammy talking about she knows nothing about birthing tubes? But I didn't hear anyone from the left decrying racism. Or how about the fact that the left is all in and fully supports Planned Parenthood, an organization that was started by a white supremacist, a racist, a supporter of the Ku Klux Klan. Margaret Sanger referred to people that look like me as undesirables and weeds. Yet, in 2016, the Democrat presidential nominee was an awardee of the Margaret Sanger Award. But no one said anything about that being racist. That's why I say rest in peace racism. Sadly, along with sexism, Islamophobe, homophobe, these are just trite labels, political battering rams that the left has used to shut down any political opposition, any speech. I hope that one day we can get back to understand what racism truly does mean. Instead of allowing white liberal progressive socialists to feel that they can attack Black conservatives with impunity, people that believe in individual rights and freedom, people that believe in our free market system, our faith, and our strength of family, we don't hear anything about how they attack us as being racist. So rest in peace, racism. You were a word that once meant something. Today, you're just like the tennis ball that got knocked back and forth at Wimbledon this past weekend.